At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about what you've done with those accomplishments. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. Denzel Washington. Welcome to Inspire Vision. Our sole purpose is to elevate the lives of others and to inspire you to do the same.
Alain, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Welcome to you. It's nice to meet you. Finally.
Yes. Yeah, we had some challenges putting this together, which I'm glad we were able to finally work it out. So you're a doctor. What kind of doctor?
Yeah, I'm a chiropractic physician.
Okay. And, it's fascinating to me. Now, I'm a retired dentist, so that's why I'm a doctor too. But it's fascinating to me that I have met so many chiropractors that have moved on. They still may be doing some practicing, but they've really moved on well beyond their normal practice and doing some amazing things. Why is that?
I think because we still have a soul where we want to deeply help people. I'm not saying other doctors don't want to help people, of course, but also we still have that creativity, right? We choose a profession that is like out of norm, if you want. So we've got those spirit, those renegade spirit that, if you really want to help people, you have to be more creative because let's face it, what I've been told and taught didn't work the way they have been preaching it, right? So I had to find a way to truly help my patient to heal, but not only to heal, but to transform themselves, to have them grow if they wanted to, and to offer so many options.
Yes. And, it's amazing how, I think you've researched this, obviously I have. And as I've talked to so many people on the podcast and experts, how much those inner subconscious items that are literally controlling our lives are also affecting our health. So here's what I'd like for you to do, though, Alain, is to go ahead and share with the audience your background, who you are, and your journey, and what brought you to this point of expanding beyond just the chiropractic into natural healing, not only of the body, but the mind and achieving goals.
That will be my pleasure. So obviously, you can hear the accent a little bit. So I was born and raised in south of France, right? And basically, I'm a chiropractic physician, right? But also I'm a mind and body expert, right? I'm a #1 Amazon selling author. And I really wanted to find out what happened in my life and why this happened. So let me tell you my story a little bit. And so I used to live on a boat, a sailing boat, and I used to rent boat in south of France, right? And I had a calling. I saw myself helping others. And when you've got a calling, you just cannot help it. You have to do it. So I did knock on different doors, and I met a Chinese doctor from France that told me, well, why don't you read those books? And after, just come to see me in my practice. So I did. And I inquired about, Chinese medicine, and he told me, well, you have to go to China really if you want to know what you're doing and learn Chinese too, to understand the sacred text. So I was 30 years old at the time, sir. And so after I said, well, am I going to be able to help people only at 40? So I said, well, I think it's too long for me. And he said, oh, you look strong. Why not a chiropractor? I said, what's this? I had no idea, right? Nobody in my family was involved with healing. And so he gave me some information, and I decided to follow that step because they were talking about something that is very precious to me, Doug. It's called the innate intelligence, our own ability to heal ourselves. And that's really so important for me, to empower people to heal themselves. So I went to America and I did study chiropractic. And I sold my boat, my sailboat, to have some money because I don't know if you know that, but in America you have to pay for your study. It's not cheap.
Oh yeah.
I was able to do that. Thanks God. I didn't have an American loan, right? I couldn't have access to it being French. And so I did that. I graduated earlier. And to make a long story short, I got like a pretty decent practice, right? I had 4 employees. We had 8 treatment rooms. we were seeing like 250 patients a week, but that was not really chiropractic for say. That was find out what's wrong with your internal chemistry, with your organs. And do you have food sensitivity, for example? Do you have any infection? Do you have any problem with your hormonal system, with your digestive system? And I was able to help quite a bit of people doing this, right? But and I was living my passion, really. That's the key, right? So, but the problem with that, I couldn't balance it out. So I got really overworked and I got burned out. And even when I was coming home, I was not present, right? I was not present for my family. And so I ending up divorced. My practice went to, because I was such, my mind was not right. I couldn't really focus. I didn't have the clarity anymore. And so my practice went from thriving to failing. And guess what? I got diagnosed with early colon cancer. So imagine that all what I've been doing, advising people, I was following my own program, right? And I've been diagnosed with a second killer in this country, right? So I have to rethink, I have to redesign myself, and those events pushed me to do that, thanks God.
Wow, that's amazing. So did you travel finally to China, or did you start studying?
No, I didn't travel to China because I didn't want to spend 10 years only studying. So what I did, I went to America. Right, I sold my boat my business first, second my boat, and I went there and I studied I went first to South Carolina, and I had to do some prerequisites, for my study before be able to go to the chiropractic college. And so they sent me to Kansas City, and I met my wife. And guess what? She's from France. We met in a bar in Kansas City. And that's soon after, maybe a few years after we got married. I've got a daughter. Her name is Maya, and she's now 20 years old. And of course, we're divorced. I already told you that.
Well,
yeah.
So I guess my question is, because you've gone way beyond chiropractic now. You're dealing with transformation of individuals, both physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that. How did you get into that, and what did you do in order to get that information?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. And so first, I did the regular chiropractic things, right? And what I've seen, it's like after you reach a plateau, right? So you get people better, but in order for them to stay better, they still have to come to see you. So there was something wrong with that approach, because in my book, Doug, when you've got a problem, it can be a health problem, it can be a relationship problem, it can be a prosperity problem. No matter what problem you have, you need to know two things to be able to achieve two things in order to have no more problem. Number one, you need to find out what's causing your problem, right? If you don't know what's causing your problem, how can you fix it? That's not possible, right? And number two, I said it, you need to know how to fix it. So if you identify the cause of a problem and you know how to fix it, there's no more problem. Meaning you can move on.
I love that. Simple. And that's so true. When I had my dental practice, I did a subspecialty in head and neck pain, literally head and neck pain. And I studied with a lady by the name of Janet Travell, who was President Kennedy's physician, and just amazing. She wrote a book on trigger point myotherapy and, why pain is caused by muscle spasms, so forth. Anyway, short of it is, in dentistry, everybody developed the term TMJ. And so a patient would come in and say, "Oh, doctor, I have TMJ." And I'm going, "Okay, stop right there. You actually have two. You got one on the left side and you got one on the right side. So tell me what your symptoms are." And then they go, "Oh, well, I've got jaw pain, or I've got headaches, I've got neck aches, or whatever." And I'm going, okay. Then we literally attacked the very issue of which muscles were in spasm, what was going on there, and never had to treat the quote TMJ, because it had something to do with everything else. So when you talk about finding the true cause of something, to me, that resonates so well, because I think that's so important. So as you have been working, I know one of the things you talk about is natural healing. And as you talk about that, you're talking about the whole person, their body, their mind, their soul, their spirit. Share with the audience a little bit about that philosophy that you have.
Well, there's two different things. There's which are very similar. There's what we call holistic healing, right? And people are familiar with that, which is basically assessing and addressing the person in all the different levels: the physical, the chemical, which is the internal chemistry, the emotional, and the mental, right? And what I tell my patient, in a way, when we assess and address, meanings that you need to find out what's the cause of a physical stress, right? I'm a cranial specialist, for example, which deal with the central nervous system, so it's very efficient. Because it's 80% of your nervous system, right? And so physically, you need to find out what's causing it, but the how to fix it part, I created literally a physical treatment in order to be able to help those people physically, right? And after emotionally, or chemically, let's put it chemically, so you have to find out that, okay, which organ are under stress and what's causing the stress in those organs? Are they food sensitivity? What's creating basically the inflammation? Are they infectious agent? Are they toxicity? And so on. So we found out exactly what's causing it, and the way to fix it, what I found very efficient is to supercharge the body with oxygen, because that will kill everything. And I'm not talking about an alkaline diet, right? But anyway, so that's the chemical part. And after, I was like, kind of stuck with the emotional and the mental part, right? So I did learn some study, right? I did learn some things called the emotional code and things like that, but that was not sufficient. Why? Because I had to use muscle testing, meaning I had to check the patient and tell the patient what's wrong. So it's not really as empowering to the patient. And when I created after the mind clearing, it took me 3 years to refine it and to make it the way it is now. It's like the patient is healing himself or herself.
Yes.
And I think beauty.
Yeah. And that's so important. And, as you get into this whole mentoring concept, coaching concept, I hate the word coach because they're a dime a dozen now, but, being able to help someone and literally guide them to where they realize what their issues are, and they're able to heal themselves. And that's the only way that it can be done. You cannot have someone else, particularly when we deal with the mind and the emotions and the spirit and so forth. That has to be done on an individual level. So I appreciate what you're saying there. So let me ask you this question. What do you find is the majority causes for someone to be experiencing that stress in their life and so forth, relative to the subconscious elements?
Okay, so first of all, let's see, for our listener, let's describe what is the mind, right? Because it's like stress. We talk a lot about it, but sometimes we get confused what is stress, right? So what is the mind? So I don't know if your people knows that, but we live in two separate worlds in the same time. So basically, we live in a inner world, inner mind, and outer world, right? So the outer world, we call that the conscious mind. And the conscious mind represents your self-identity, who you think you are, your personality, what you think it's possible or not to achieve in your life, how do you perceive your reality, right? So that's basically your self-identity, right? And so that's your conscious mind. And after, we've got what we call the unconscious or subconscious mind, right? Which is basically where your skills are stored, right? Which is where all the things in your body that you're doing automatically happen there. And you do have programs there. And we're going to talk of those programs. And basically, the subconscious mind is designed also to record everything you have been doing in your life and you're not aware of. You've got like a couple of things you can have access to in regular basis, but mostly you're not aware of. And so if you look at the ratio between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, I mean, it's just mind-blowing. Depends who you read. The conscious mind is 5 to 10% of your mind only. The subconscious mind is therefore 90 to 95% of your mind. Isn't it crazy? Because what we do on healing and transformation and growth, we assess and address only the conscious mind most of the time, except if you do hypnotherapy, which is only 5 or 10% of your mind. So my question to you, Doug? Do you want to use 100% of your mind and brain power, or you want to use only 5 or 10% of your mind and brain power to heal, transform yourself, and grow?
Well, and that's so amazing. And yet, even beyond that, I don't know if you've looked at this much or into it, but I have. And what I find fascinating is not only do we have that subconscious mind, which occurred early in childhood and so on and so forth, with all the imprints and everything that goes on. And I think it's important to understand that, particularly for parents who are doing the best job that they can, oftentimes children have different perceptions of what events are rather than what parents have. And so oftentimes, we may do something that we think is really good for our child. For some reason, their perception is different. But then you get also into DNA. And what I have found is there is no question that there is DNA memory. So now we're dealing not only with our subconscious and our conscious, but we're dealing with the history of our ancestors and some of those things that have been with them that we call epigenetics, that just keeps passing down from generation to generation. And depending on how we deal with that, it can literally affect us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's so true. And so, well, let me make the link with the subconscious mind, right? So the subconscious mind, you were talking about this program, right, that actually are running us, really, literally. And so let me illustrate that with an example. Let's pretend there's a little girl that see her dad is a drunk, coming drunk every night and beating up the mom. What do you think that little girl, when she, what kind of romantic down the road, what kind of romantic relationship she's going to attract?
Yeah, she's going to end up literally attracting someone who will be physically abusive.
Exactly. And so what is the program there, right? So because when you ask her that little girl that she's in that abusive relationship, you ask her, hey, do you want to get beat like your mom? What's she going to say? She's going to say, heck no. So the conscious mind say no, but the subconscious mind has been programmed as men are predators and women are prey. Now, this is opening another question, like how she's going to connect with that guy, right? Who is probably a bully, right? And going to replicate that bully things, right? So it's like our subconscious mind are connected to each other, because she's not going to say, shake the hand of a guy, say, hey, do you want to beat me up? That's not the way it works, right? And so what's going to happen, it's like the subconscious mind is going to say, this guy, you're going to be able to tango, to dance with him. He's going to bully you, he's going to be the predator, and you're going to be the prey. And there's like 3 case scenario for that little girl mainly. She may marry that guy and stay stuck with him for the rest of her life. That's case scenario number 1. Number 2, she may be with that guy and after say, well, it's too much, right? I cannot stand it, and learn from life experiences. Maybe along the way, she will have kids with different partners, things like that. And you know what usually what they tell me when they are done with that, they say, I'm done with men. Like the women, they don't want to have a relationship anymore because they realize it's not good for them. So it's not truly healing. Truly healing will be, she attracted somebody that is 180 degree different, that is more supportive, that is not abusing at all, and relate to her as one-on-one person. And number 3, she can do some hypnotherapy, anything that can tap into the subconscious mind or mind clearing, and just have that program. So the mind clearing, there's 3 steps on that. Number 1, what you need to do, you need to delete the limiting programming, or what we call the limiting belief in the subconscious mind, right? That's number 1. Number 2, you need to download instead an empowering belief of what you want. So basically, you delete what you don't want to make it super simple. You download what you want, and after you need to create, to manifest into your life. Because if it's not manifested into your life, we are designed to manifest things in our life. That's how we experience things, right? Otherwise, it's a fantasy in your head. Right, so you want to make sure that after it just show up in your life, whatever you have been reprogramming, and that was step number 3.
Well,
right?
and you use the word delete, and again, as we've talked about this as I have with numerous guests, one of the things that comes up is that a lot of people do talk about just get rid of it, delete it, and so forth. But others, and I have found this may be more accurate, at least in my experience and opinion, is that we never delete it, but we become so mindful that when that comes up, we recognize that it is a subconscious belief and that we do not have to accept that anymore and let it control our lives. And by doing that, ultimately, we literally change the neural pathways in our brain, as you say, whether it's 5 to 10%, but we change the neural pathways in our brain so that that no longer affects our behavior or the people that we attract. Now, you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree. I didn't find that accurate using the mind clearing. Let me explain you why. Because it just, if you don't find really the way to connect, and let me explain first how we do that, how we connect to that subconscious mind.
Okay.
Well, okay. So there's a couple of things, and one is very important, is your dream, right? So your dream is how the subconscious mind communicate with you, right? And when you remember a dream, you remember a series of pictures, right? So that's how the subconscious mind store things, right? Via picture. It's not like a text, like a computer. It will be different picture. And so what happens is in this picture, like we say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And so the picture, there's all that symbolism. That's why there's so many books, with dream interpretation and things like that, because it's so rich. So what I will ask somebody, let's see, Doug, you've got, you were mentioning neck pain, right? So I will say, okay, I want you to visualize a picture, and you have to be in that picture. I will explain later on why. You have to be on that picture. And what you do, you visualize the worst pain you ever had. So you visualize that picture. So that's your limiting belief. We don't need to know what it is. You see, that's a big confusion that is out there. You don't need to know. You don't need to know what it's coming from. It doesn't matter. What you want, you just want to correct it. Right? That's it. And so when you try to identify the disease, or the limiting belief, I think that's why you get into trouble. Because you want to be specific. Usually you use muscle testing. You should do a different way to do it. But when you use a picture, you don't have to identify them, because that limiting belief is going to be represented in that picture with all the symbolism. So you delete that. So there's a special program, and the patient is like sending that program, right? Number one. Number two, I ask them visualize the opposite of that picture. Totally the opposite of that picture, which is your empowering belief, which is what you want, right? And you have to be on that picture. And after we customize the download, and they download themselves, right? And after there's different steps, but this gives you like the main things of what's going on. So that's when you use the language of a subconscious mind, that's how you can communicate. And after, let's pretend, okay, usually that's what happened within one visit or two, your neck pain is gone. All right? And so
that is
what
your
happened,
experience at 1 or 2 visits and they've eliminated
yes,
all those limiting beliefs?
yes. No, I didn't say all the limiting belief. I said the limiting belief that were the cause of the neck pain.
Okay.
So you can go on my website, just, go on my website, there's testimonial, and you will see what people have to say. I know this is like, I understand you have been having lots of guests and you say, well, this is crazy, this is not possible. It is. It really is. And so what can happen, it's like when you go and get rid of that, so you may have so you're good, and after you go into your car and, oh, my neck hurts again. Same location and all that. So it's what I call a resistance or a trigger, right? So next session, you visualize what? You visualize you getting into your car having the pain. So that's the limiting belief, that's the trigger. And after you visualize the opposite, we do that, and it just takes, it's very quick. and we get rid of that. So we get rid of all the resistance too. So when you delete the main causes, right, which is the neck pain in this example, right, and after we delete all the resistance associated with that you can call triggers, I like better resistance of healing, right, and so you just get rid of that. This is it. There's no more causes.
So let me ask you a question. This goes off in a slightly different direction, but you've kind of referred to it. So, we talk about emotions, and, I have looked at different emotional scales and I've studied them very carefully, and you may not even agree with them, but I have seen, and if we look right now in the US, we have a population who are extremely angry, who are extremely frustrated, and they stay that way, and they just generate, even more anger and more anger and more anger. How do you help people to move from that level of emotional anger to the point that they can start to move away from that and literally become more of, happy, forgiving, understanding, joyous, all of those types of things? Because we have right now a society that literally live in anger.
Yeah, and that's what I call the nocebo effect, right? Because, you've got the placebo effect and you've got the nocebo effect. So it's basically just to, I don't know if you want me to go more into that, but basically what happened, it's like our society and our environment can program us negatively, right?
Yes.
And so that's the nocebo effect. The placebo effect is what? Is like, let's see, I'm in a study, right? And it's a study for heartburn. And I'm taking the pill that is supposed to be the pill to help the heartburn, and it helping me. But the problem I discovered is the sugar pill. So that shows you the power of a limiting belief. I truly believed in my mind that pill will heal me, and it did. And the nocebo effect is like this. It's like I take the pills, right? But I've been explained the side effect of it. So I take the pill, and it's a sugar pill, and I experience the side effect. And that's the nocebo effect. And we don't talk too much about the nocebo effect, which is the most prevalent one, right? Because all the negativity that can be cultural, that can be where we live, can affect us and can trigger some anger. So now let me explain the way I see things, right? So imagine a triangle, right? And inside the triangle, you've got the limiting belief. On top of a triangle, you're going to have a negative thought associated with a limiting belief. On the right side of a triangle, you're going to have the overwhelming emotion that match the negative thought. And after, on the left side, the left corner of a triangle, you're going to have the non-desirable behavior and the non-desirable action and outcome. So let me give you an example. Let's see, like you say, those limiting beliefs are very prevalent from age 0 to 8 years old. It depends who you read. Some people say 6 years old. It doesn't really matter. Why? Because when we are sponges, we absorb everything. We have less filter, right? So it's easier. We're so innocent, and so it's much easier to get that programming, right? So imagine I've been told my dad was not supportive and told me I'm a loser, right? So that's my limiting belief. So I'm going to think I'm a loser. I'm going to feel like a loser. I'm going to behave like a loser. And I'm going to get outcome. The outcome is going to be a loser outcome, which is going to reinforce that program, because after I'm going to feel even more like a loser. Oh, I knew it didn't work, right? I knew it, I'm a loser, right? And after I'm going to think I'm a loser, I'm even more a loser. And my limiting belief is going to be reinforced. I call that the subconscious stress loop. And we caught up on those loops that are behind the scene and govern ourselves. Like to give you an idea, 80% of the average person is negative. Are negative. 95% we relive the same scenario that the day before. So we caught up on that loop. And why is so negative? Because we are too much in our head. So all our energy go to the head because we want to resolve problem. But guess what, Doug? When you resolve a problem, after there's another problem, and after there's another problem, it's never-ending story. So people, why they are under so much stress mentally and emotionally because they are too much in their head, right? And so what we need when we get rid of a limiting belief, right? We start to open up the heart that has been shut down by either the trauma of all that negativity, right? And so most people live too much in their head and heart should die. That's why it's the number one killer in this country, cardiovascular disease, right? There's not only a diet reason, right? I mean, I understand physical, chemical, and emotional, but there's also a big part of emotional. So we live with our heart shut down. So when we clear the limiting belief, let's put it that way, right? I call that open head, open heart, and open will. The will. Okay. So it's like the head, heart, and hara, which in Japanese means belly. That's the free edge. So when you start to clear the mind, right? It's called mind clearing for a reason, right?
Right.
So when you start to clear the mind, you are more open-minded. So it means if you've got a problem, instead of seeing one or two solutions, you see more possibilities, right? And so when you see more possibilities, also you open your heart because your heart, your emotion are less negative, right? So the heart's open too. And after you have to take the action. So let me give you an example, right? So, well, actually, let me finish with that. So what happened when your thought, your emotion, and your behavior and action are aligned positively? That's how you are unstoppable. That's how you can transform your life to things that you cannot even dare to imagine or to dream about. That's where you can heal from some crazy disease or very even like disease that can kill you, right?
Yeah.
So when you've got all those aligned, and right now what people are talking, they are talking about the heart and the head coherence, which means alignment. It's just a big word to say alignment. I like to keep things very simple. I say it's not enough because you need to take the action, right? So here, for example, that will be everybody's talking about the law of attraction. What is the law of attraction? It's the alignment of your head and your heart, right? So your thought and your emotion are in sync, if you want to use another word. But it's still a fantasy in your head until you manifest that in the world. So you need to use after the will, meaning taking action, because if I say, oh yeah, I can, I want to have that. So I align my head, my heart, and I'm waiting. I'm doing nothing, right? there's lots of change. It's not going to materialize for you. It's not going to happen for you. But if I'm taking the action, if I'm behaving in such a way that I'm going to manifest that into my reality. And that's the secret.
Well, and I love that because, as you say, and I think that's so key, as you open up your mind, as you open up your heart, you've got to take action, because once you take action, that reinforces that. And all of a sudden, you literally start to change your experiences, change, in my belief, that neural pathway in your brain that has been a negative habit is now moving to the side, and you're creating the neural pathway, which I love. And I've never really heard of the way that you're doing it, as far as picturing and so forth, and not identifying.
I know.
And that is fascinating to me. And so that's an interesting one. So let me ask you this question. If people are listening to you and resonating with what you're saying, how do they find you?
Well, they can go on my website. It's www.themindclearing.com, because here's the vision. For me, the vision is like to inspire people to help themselves, so they need to be empowered, to help themselves. So how can we do that? You can learn that technique for yourself, and you can help your loved one. It's not complicated. You don't need to be a doctor. You don't need to have like a PhD of anything. Actually, you don't need all that all. You just need to learn how to do it. I treat myself all the time. If I've got pain, I will treat myself. If I feel, let's say I'm nervous about something, I will treat myself on the spot. So that's very liberating, and very empowering. And there's one thing that I want to say. It's like I want people to realize how powerful they are. We have been told that we can use only our conscious mind, which is 5 or 10% of mind, instead of being able to use our subconscious mind and unleash that amazing transformating powers of that subconscious mind. So when you understand that you are much more than your self-identity, right? But you are also, which is your second mind, if you want, right? Your subconscious mind, everything is possible. Because the way I see it, if you want to zoom out and get the big picture, Doug, the way I see it, it's like, let's see, our divine aspect is like the sun, right? The sun is God, is awareness, whatever you want to call it according to your belief, it doesn't really matter, right? And so that's the sun, and the spark of that sun, it's your spirit, right? And this is still on non-duality. Right? So it means there's no good and bad, it's just all varies. And after imagine there's cloud. There's a series of clouds that prevent you maybe to feel the sun. Some people, they think that the sun doesn't even exist. Right? And so those are the limiting beliefs. So what you do, you decloud, you're taking limiting belief after limiting belief, and now you can feel the sun. Now you can feel the connection with your spirit. Well, which is going to make you more positive, right? Which is going to make you having positive thought, right? Who's going to make you having empowering belief, positive thought, supportive emotion, and desirable action and behavior, right? And so more and more you are connected to your spirit, and more you are you, the truly you, not only the tiny you like you think in your self-identity, which is again 5 or 10% of your mind. And now you can be truly realize yourself and be the you that we all deserve to be.
Oh, I love that. And just for the audience, the website again is themindclearing.com. So www.themindclearing.com. And if they go there, they'll get all sorts of information.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very, doctor means teacher. So for me, it's very important to teach people. And so if they mention your podcast, they will have 20% off of a session with me.
Oh, wonderful.
Specifically. So why? Because true knowledge is about experiencing, right? So I can talk a lot about mind clearing. I can talk for hours about it, but it doesn't compare to experiencing it. Because after you will have a true knowledge and understanding on what this is about. Because maybe some people think, oh, this is crazy, it's not possible. Well, I understand I call that the mind clearing revolution, right? Because this is even with somebody like you, Doug, that has been around and heard so many speakers. You told me, what? In 1 or 2 visits? I say, yes. I took care of a hoarding problem in 1 visit. This is amazing. But why? It's because we are really finally able to tap into that power of the subconscious mind and unleash it. So they will have that. And if they want to learn, because there's 3 systems. There's the mind clearing. There's the goal and success clearing, if you want to manifest what you want in your life. And there's the body clearing for pain, for if you've got problem with digestion and things like that. We can help with pain and symptom if you want. So if you want to learn the entire things, you will have 50% off on the entire things. And you go into contact, there's a jot form, and you can communicate with me, and you've got an email, which is dr.salas@gmail.com. And you will see that on my website on the contact.
Right. And that's great. And quite frankly, going to your website, they're going to see testimonials of people that you've helped, which just creates that credibility that a lot of times people don't understand. So anyway, Alain, thank you so much. This has been fascinating.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Doug. It was a pleasure. That was worth to spend a few minutes to make sure we got a good connection.
It was a tough one, but I'm glad we did. So thanks so much. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Doug. My pleasure.
And folks, thanks for listening. Go to the website, look at the testimonials, and realize that wow, here's a slightly different approach, or maybe a major different approach than you're used to, and yet it's working for people. And that's always worth investigating if you're experiencing those type of challenges. So anyway, this is Dr. Doug. Hope you join us again soon. And I am saying to you one more time, namaste.